Ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, scholars and dignitaries, welcome to another episode. Welcome to my world. So, people may not realize it, but it wasn't too many years ago that Russia was both a communist country, but also an affirmed atheistic country, which had strong penalties, including imprisonment and torture for anyone practicing Christianity. But in the 1990s, Russia began to open up to the outside world, and soon after, two American missionaries were invited by the Russian Department of Education to teach morals and ethics based on Christian principles in the public schools. They were invited to teach at schools, prisons, businesses, in human services, and at a large orphanage. When they arrived at the orphanage, they found about 100 boys and girls. These children had been abused, abandoned, left on the street, and were now in the care of a government run orphanage. They were saddened at what they found there, so many children with so many needs. Anyway, it was coming up to Christmas, and they wanted the orphans to hear for the very first time the story of Christmas. They told them about Mary and Joseph and how, arriving in Bethlehem, they found no room at the inn, so they went to the only place they could find, a stable where the baby Jesus was born and placed in a manger. They told them how the shepherds were called by the angels to come and visit the new baby Jesus, and how the three wise men, kings of the East, arrived bringing gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Throughout the story, the children and also the orphanage staff sat in amazement as they listened. Some sat on the edges of their stools, trying to hear and grasp every word. So after the story, the two missionaries gave the children 3 small pieces of cardboard to make a manger. Each child was given a small paper square cut from yellow napkins because there wasn't any construction paper available anywhere in the city. Following instructions, the children tore the paper and carefully laid strips in the manger for straw. Small squares of flannel, cut from an old worn-out nightgown, were used for the baby's blanket, and a doll-like baby was cut from some tan felt they had. So the orphans were busy assembling their manger as they were told, and at one table they noticed that a little boy named Misha, about 6 years old, sat and he had finished his project. But when they looked, they saw not one, but 2 babies in the manger. So they asked the translator to ask the boy why there were 2 babies in the manger. And after making the sign of the cross, the boy looked at his manger scene and began to repeat the Nativity Story very seriously and virtually word for word. This was amazing because he was so young and had only heard the Christmas story once, but he repeated everything accurately and exactly until he came to the part where Mary put the baby Jesus in the manger. Then Misha made up his own ending to the story. He said, "And when Mary laid the baby in the manger, Jesus looked at me and asked me if I had a place to stay. I told him, no, I have no mama and I have no papa, and so I don't have any place to stay. Then Jesus told me I could stay with him. But I told him I couldn't because I didn't have a gift to give him like everybody else did. But I wanted to stay with Jesus so much. So I thought about what I had that maybe I could use for a gift. I thought maybe, if I kept him warm, that would be a good gift. So I asked Jesus, if I keep you warm, will that be a good enough gift? And Jesus told me, if you keep me warm, that will be the best gift anyone has ever given to me. So I got into the manger, and then Jesus looked at me and he told me I could stay with him for always." As little Misha finished his story, his eyes filled full of tears that rolled down his little cheeks. Putting his hand over his face, his head dropped to the table, and his shoulders shook as he sobbed and sobbed. That little orphan had found someone who would never abandon nor abuse him, someone who would always stay with him, someone who would love him for always. Christmas has become something too many of us take for granted, but it really is the most blessed event in all of history. But sometimes we forget, and sometimes it takes a little boy, an orphan, to help us to remember. Hey, be safe, be well, Merry Christmas, and may God bless.